Let me tell you, the night it all started, it wasn't the sound of glass shattering or some dramatic scream that woke me up. Nope. It was that soft metallic click of my front door unlocking, so faint it almost could have been a dream. Except my dog let out this low, rumbling growl at the foot of the bed, and I snapped awake like I'd been hit with a bucket of ice water, heart already pounding, mind racing. Because, sometimes it's not the loud things that change your life, it's the ones that slip in quiet. I slid out of bed, bare feet cold on the floor, and every sense just dialed up to 11. Another tiny sound, the door easing open, that little whine of hinges. Not someone breaking in with a crowbar, but someone easing in almost casual, like they belonged there, and honestly, that was worse. I moved down the hallway, slow and silent, phone in hand, but not dialing 911. Nah, thumb hovered over my wife's number. Because when your wife is the chief of police, you don't call for backup. You call the cavalry. And she always picks up on the first ring, calm as a still pond, the kind of person who could stop a bar fight just by raising an eyebrow. I peeked around the corner into the living room, streetlights spilling through the curtains, and there she was, Karen, the queen of our HOA, standing smack in the middle of my house like she was inspecting a crime scene, hand on the doorknob, eyes wide and calculating, frozen when she saw me. For a long second, we just stared at each other, her face flickering between indignation and embarrassment. Then she spat out, "Your door was unlocked," like that was a reasonable excuse. I couldn't help myself. I just raised an eyebrow. Didn't remember inviting her in for a midnight inspection. She blustered, trying to stand her ground, mumbling something about a safety check and making sure everything was secure, but I almost laughed at the irony. "You break into my house to check for intruders." "Well, congratulations, Karen. You just found one and it's you." She glanced around, probably looking for cameras, not realizing I had 3 trained on her already, 2 inside, 1 on the porch, every second of her little home invasion getting captured in HD. She tried to pull it together, straightening up, chin jutting, launching into her routine about compliance and violations, my truck and eyesore, my flag, the wrong color, the shrubs too aggressive, and the silence stretched until her words just sounded ridiculous. I let her have it. "Karen, you're in my house at midnight. Do you hear yourself? Do you realize how insane that is?" She puffed up, voice cracking, but insisted she'd overlook it for now. Then she spun and stomped out, slamming the door like that would erase the fact she'd just committed a felony. My heart was still hammering, my dog whining, but I just crouched down, scratched his ears, and whispered, "Don't worry, buddy. She just made her biggest mistake yet." Because Karen had no idea whose door she'd just unlocked. Next morning, the world looked ordinary: kids waiting for the bus sprinklers, ticking that clean scent of fresh-cut grass. But under it all, you could feel it, neighbors peeking from behind curtains, whispering the rumor mill spinning faster than Karen's monthly newsletter. I made coffee, sat on the porch, waited, and sure enough there she came, neon pink, tracksuit, clipboard wielded like a weapon, hair sprayed into a helmet, lips pursed with purpose. She strutted across the street and jabbed the clipboard at me, launching into violations: truck 2 inches over the line, shutters the wrong shade, don't get her started on the lawn. I took a slow sip, let her finish, then dropped the hammer. "You gonna mention breaking into my house, or is that not on your list?" She blinked, color rising, stammering, "That never happened. I just set my phone on the chair." Arm screen lit up with a paused frame, her in my doorway caught on camera. For a second she looked almost human, nervous, caught vulnerable, then snapped back, shrilling about privacy invasion, threatening to report me for the cameras. I just grinned. "Send the footage with your complaint, should make for great evidence." She spluttered and stomped away, and that's when I knew the trap was set. That night, I showed the footage to my wife. She watched stone-faced, then just said, "Unbelievable." I asked if she wanted to handle it, but she shook her head. "Let's see how far she'll go." And boy, did Karen go far. Over the next week, she ramped things up, plastered violation notices on my door, none of them official, harassed. The mailman told kids they couldn't ride scooters because it lowered property values. I documented every incident, logged every word, tucked away the footage of her midnight visit. The neighborhood started to catch on. Whispered avoided her, some stopped to share their own run-ins. Turns out Karen had crawled into other folks' yards, measured fences, and generally acted like she owned the street. What Karen didn't know was that I'd spent years overseas dealing with people way scarier than her, and I'd come home to rebuild, not be bullied. Most importantly, she had no clue the one person she really shouldn't cross was sleeping in my bed, the law itself, my wife. The next morning, Karen did her usual routine, strutted over clipboard out mouth firing. But when I called her out for breaking in, she tried to gaslight me, act like it never happened until I told her about the cameras. She tried to make it all neighborly. Let's handle this quietly. I just sipped my coffee. That's what burglars say, Karen. She retreated, but you could tell she was already scheming her next move. That day, the HOA newsletter showed up front page blaring about community standards, certain homeowners disregarding rules subtle as a sledgehammer. My wife just laughed when I read it to her, but we agreed let Karen escalate, keep documenting. And escalate, she did more bogus notices, one about aggressive shrubbery, another claiming my flag was too large, all of them copied, none official. Then one evening I came home to find my gate unlocked, garage wide open, and there was Karen halfway inside poking around like she was shopping for tools, looking for something I asked, making her jump. She babbled about code compliance, but I just pulled out my phone and hit record. She tried to bluster about authority, but I laughed. Your authority ends at the sidewalk, Karen. Then I called my wife, made sure Karen heard every word. Hey, honey, got a trespasser in the garage. Karen's jaw dropped when she realized who my wife was. She backed out so fast she tripped over the hose, then bolted for her house, humiliated. But the next morning her house turned into a command post, visitors, other board members, her little army gathering for an emergency HOA meeting. She stood on her lawn delivering speeches about dangerous influence and removal votes, trying to paint me as the villain. The irony was thick, the real intruder rallying against my lawn length. That night my wife said, "We've got enough for charges, trespassing, harassment, stalking." I hesitated. The idea of seeing Karen cuffed was tempting, but I wanted her to dig her own grave first. And dig she did. Every evening, neighbors were dragged to her lawn for meetings. She'd blow a whistle to start as if we were in the HOA Olympics. But cracks started to show. During one meeting, Old Man Perkins called her out for trespassing, and the crowd murmured her grip was slipping. Then my wife showed up at home for lunch in full uniform, right as Karen was mid-rant. The neighborhood finally realized the real authority in town was my wife, not Karen. Some folks started recording. The shift was happening. Karen doubled down, slapped a bright orange final notice of violation on my mailbox, accused me of hostile shrubs. I almost choked laughing. But then things got ugly. My dog's water bowl turned up full of bleach, not enough to kill him thanks to dumb luck, but enough to make me see red. I took photos, bagged the evidence, showed my wife. We press charges now, she said, but I shook my head. Not yet. We catch her red-handed. So I installed hidden cameras, motion-activated lights, set my phone to ping whenever someone entered the yard. 2 nights later, I caught Karen in the act, bolt cutters in hand, about to break into my shed. I confronted her, caught her on camera, and before she could stammer, my wife pulled up in her patrol car uniform, sharp voice clipped. "Step away from the shed, ma'am." Karen tried to play victim, but my wife wasn't having it. Karen scurried away, but the evidence was building. Soon enough, Karen filed a formal complaint not against me but against my wife, accusing her of harassment and abuse of authority. The HOA had to hold a hearing. That night, the community center buzzed with neighbors. Karen, in her neon armor, waving folders of evidence, mostly pictures of my truck and shrubs. When the weary board president, Alan, asked for proof, all she had was ordinary life, nothing illegal. So I handed over my folder, photos, emails, footage of Karen trespassing, trying my garage, poisoning the dog's bowl. Gasps rippled through the room. Other neighbors started speaking up. She'd harassed their kids, trespassed in their yards. The hearing turned on her, and Alan moved to censure her, suspend her from the board. Karen lost it, stormed out, shrieking about conspiracies. That night, my cameras caught her pacing, stuffing papers into bags, not retreating, but regrouping. Then came the sabotage eggs on my windows, nails on the driveway, scratched truck, missing mail. The final straw came one night when she cut the power to my house, bolt cutters in hand. I confronted her, caught her on camera, and this time my wife called it arson, vandalism, time to end it. The warrant came down the street filled with patrol cars. Neighbors watched as Karen barricaded herself in, then finally emerged waving papers, screaming about corruption until she was cuffed and led away. After her arrest, things changed. Her house sat dark lawn, untended, her reign over, but she tried one last round, court letters, restraining order requests, all tossed by the judge. The neighborhood for the first time felt like a community, not a battleground. We held a block party, grilled in the street, shared stories not about Karen, but about ourselves. Her trial was quick. The evidence overwhelming: trespassing, vandalism, attempted arson, all of it. She tried to paint herself as a victim, but the jury saw through it. When the verdict came down guilty on all counts, I realized the real victory wasn't her conviction, it was the life we got back. Karen had tried to control everything, and in doing so united the neighborhood against her. She wanted power, but ended up the punchline. And me, I went back to living, fixing the shed, mowing my hostile shrubs, flying my flag high, finally able to breathe. Late at night, sometimes I look across at her old house, the lights long gone. And I can't help but smile, because the sweetest revenge is living free while your enemy is locked up by their own choices. You know what I mean? And hey, let me ask, what would you have done if Karen was your neighbor? Would you let her run wild, or would you stand your ground? Drop a comment, share your own story, and let's talk about what justice really looks like, because sometimes all it takes is one person standing up to change everything.